Hi world, it's Keely and I am back for another video featuring Zoe and this is going to be my September TBR. Now I have my books broken up into categories for September. This is not everything that is on my radar, but these are the ones that if I could get to these in September, that would be pretty amazing. I've been having a really great reading month through August and I would like to continue it into September. I am working on various projects, the biggest two really being that I want to finish out some series, which I have been making progress on, so that's going to be a section. And then the second section is going to be not like, well, it's not a section. The second thing I'm working on is not buying any books for the foreseeable future. I set myself a goal of putting a certain amount of money into savings, which if you didn't watch my video before where I talked about my goals for the rest of the year, that's something that I'm working on, is putting more money into savings, and I'm tracking it every day of like how many days have I gone without spending money on anything that isn't considered a necessity, like medication, shower stuff, that kind of stuff. And I'm going to continue to do that and try to really not buy any books and really use my library as much as I can. And so far it's been going really well. It's only been a week, but it's going really well. I am now at 65% read of my books that I own, which is really great. I was at 64%, now I'm at 65%, and I just want to continue to get that number to go up. So if I can knock out a bunch more books in September, I think that would be great. Let's dive into the books. So one book is going to be a book that I'm reading until the end of the year. This is an ongoing project. All throughout this year, I have been reading Bad Days in History by Michael Farquhar, which I've talked about a ton of times. Basically, just every day of the year, there is a small section that talks about a different unfortunate thing that happened on that day. I did get myself caught up, so now I am officially caught up with this one. I have read every day up to today, and I will continue to do this until the end of the year. So this one is going to continue to show up in my videos until the end of December. The second one that is similar to that, I would really like to try to read a story, at least one story a week, if not one story every day, in Damnable Tales, a folk horror anthology. And this has a collection of stories from authors like Shirley Jackson, M.R. James, Thomas Hardy. I just think this is going to be a really fun one to work my way through for the spooky months. And I would love to get this read in September, but if I don't finish it and I take it into October, that is completely fine. The printing is very, very small though, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I'm excited to work my way through this one. Then I have one reread for September, which again, if this one goes into October, I'm totally fine with. That is a reread of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. A lot of YouTubers have been working their way through Daphne du Maurier's books over the last couple years, and I was heavily influenced by Lauren from Lauren in the Books, who recently read Rebecca within the last couple years and is currently working her way through all of Daphne du Maurier's works. This is really the only one that I have super interest in. I have read this before, but it's been a really long time and I just want to do a reread of it. I think the spooky months is the perfect time to read this gothic horror, so very, very excited for this one. This, if you've never read this book, never heard of it, is one that a lot of people really, really love, and for good reason. It is about this woman who encounters this seemingly eligible bachelor guy, and he has this big like mansion, and there's something going on with his ex-wife. It's kind of spooky, kind of weird. You don't really know what's going on. I love that setup. I love people going into gigantic houses, like haunted houses, and trying to figure out what's going on. That's always going to be something that I want to read, so I really want to start my reread of Rebecca. Next, we can go into the books that are not part of anything. These are just standalone books, but they're ones that I'd like to get to. I have a couple, well, I have a ton of books that I've purchased so far this year that I'm trying to work my way through, because one of my goals for the year was to complete 50%, like read 50% of the books that I bring in. Last I counted, I think I was at 38% read, but I DNF'd a book this morning and I finished another one last night, so I do need to double check my math. I will put the percentage of wherever I'm at right here, and I have more books. Some of these other categories, like other stacks, will go towards that as well. But these are two that I got that are standalones, at least for right now, that I would really like to read. I believe this one is a complete standalone. This one is She Is a Haunting by Trang Tan Tran. And this one I haven't heard anyone talk about, but it looked very spooky. And it says, Jade Nguyen arrives in Vietnam with one goal: pretend to be a happy family in the French colonial house her estranged father is restoring. If she survives these 5 weeks, she can get out with the college money Ba promised. But the house has other plans. Traces of a deadly history are everywhere. Something is rotting the house and its inhabitants, and night after night, Jade is haunted by a beautiful ghost who cryptically warns, don't eat. Again, haunted house vibes. So excited for this one. This one just sounded really quirky and fun. This one is I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle, who wrote The Last Unicorn, which I've never read, but I know is like a beloved fantasy novel. It's got a quote in the front from Travis Baldree, who wrote Legends and Lattes, that I really loved. I'm excited for this one. It says dragons are common in the backwater kingdom of Bella Montang. Sure. Coming in sizes from mouse-like vermin all the way up to fabled kings, which haven't been seen in an age. Gaius Aurelius Constantine Heliogabalus Thrax, who would much rather people just call him Robert, has recently inherited his deceased father's job as a dragon exterminator, a career he detests with all his heart. Things turn from bad to worse when Robert is hired by the royal family to disinfect the entire castle, as Princess Cerise is determined to receive Crown Prince Reginald with the shabby chateau looking its best. What happens next is not the fairy tale you may be expecting. Sounds like it's going to be super fun. It's very short, so I don't think this one will take me long to get through at all. It's about 250 pages. Excited to get to this one. Then let's move into the series that I would like to make progress on. So I've been finishing out some series and other ones I'm working on. I have a big spreadsheet of all of the series that I'm currently working on, including ones that I'm like caught up and I'm waiting for the next book to come out. And then I have a separate spreadsheet of all the series that I have completed, whether or not the series itself is completed or I've read all of the books. The most recent one that is a trilogy that I'm not interested in reading the final book is the Belladonna trilogy by Adeline Grace. I just finished Foxglove, which is book 2. There's one more full-length book called Wisteria to finish out the trilogy, but it's about a different character that I don't care about. So I moved that series to my finish list because I've read everything that I cared about for that series. But I have a stack here of some other ones that I would really love to get to. Know that there are more series that I want to work on. The first one that I want to read is book 2 of the Green Wild series by Perry Thompson. This one is The City Beyond the Sea. This is a middle grade series about Daisy, I couldn't remember her name, about Daisy who has plant magic and her mom goes missing in the first book and she has to try to figure out where her mom went. And it's just super cute. I love plant magic and anything that has to do with like hedge witch vibes. I loved the first one, so I immediately went and got the second one and didn't read it. So I need to read this one. I know there's at least one more that has come out. I don't know if it's just a trilogy, but I need to read this one. Then this one, it came out fairly recently. This is The Daughter's War, which is the prequel, I think, to the Black Tongue Thief series by Christopher Buehlman. I read The Black Tongue Thief on vacation a couple years ago around Christmas, so I thought it would be fun to read this one around Christmas as well, or just like in the fall, like as it's getting colder. So I thought that this one would be super fun. Okay, it says it's set during the war-torn, goblin-infested years just before the Black Tongue Thief. I'm just super excited for this one. I've heard that this one is better than Black Tongue Thief, so I'm excited for this one. Then I have I have 2 final books to finish out some trilogies. I really need to read Human Rights by Juno Dawson, which is the 3rd and final book of the Her Majesty's Royal Coven trilogy. That is one of my favorites of all time. It's super duper cozy. It's about witches in England, found family. It's just lovely. I really, really loved the first 2 and the novella. So I only have this one to read, this is like one of the final books that I've bought so far this year, right before I started my like a hard stop, not buying anymore. So I really need to read this one. And then this one has been sitting on my shelf for years and I need to finally read it. This is the third and final book to the Drowning Empire trilogy by Andrea Stewart. I loved the first one, which was the Bone Shard Daughter, I think. And then the second one, yeah, Bone Shard Daughter is right there. Bone Shard Emperor was the second one. And then this is the final one, the Bone Shard War. I did start this one at one point right after I finished the second one, and then I put it down and haven't picked it back up. But I really, really want to finish out this trilogy. I really enjoyed the first book. I loved the second book. I'm hoping that I'm going to enjoy the third and final book. And the next section that I have is books that I got out from the library. So one of my goals for this year was to have 25% of the books that I read all year come from my library. And I think as of right now, I'm sitting at 23%, which is so close. I'm currently reading a book from my library on my Kindle. That is another series. That is the third book in the Amari and the Night Brothers series by B.B. Austin. The fourth book comes out either later this year or next year, so I will read this one. I'm about halfway through it and I will be completely caught up. Yay for that. And then I have a stack of some other books. So I have this one, which is the third book in the Scholomance trilogy by Naomi Novik. This is a series that my husband got me the first one, and I read it that year and then never went on to read the next book, but I own the second book. So I just finished a reread of the first book. I need to read the second book and then read the third book, and I can be done with that trilogy. It's so good. It's about a girl who goes to the Scholomance, which is the school for magicians, and basically everyone in the school is trying to survive with monsters constantly trying to kill them. A lot of kids are not going to make it out, and so she is trying to survive while she's also dealing with the fact that like she's always been a loner. People think she's evil, so she's never had friends, so she's kind of an asshole to everyone around her, but it's just lovely. I had such a good time rereading it, so I need to pick up The Last Graduate, which is book 2, and then The Golden Enclaves is book 3. Then I have this one, which is a standalone from Chuck Tingle. I have never read any books by this author, but my husband was just listening to a podcast where they were talking about this author, and he was like, hey, have you read anything by him? I said, no, I hadn't, but I also just got rid of my Amazon Prime to help save money, and also screw you, Jeff Bezos. So I decided that I would get this from the library instead, because originally I had a copy from Kindle Unlimited, but I would rather support my local library, so that's why I picked this one up. This is like a horror about Misha, who is trying to have success in Hollywood, but yes, it says the executives at the studio for his long-running streaming series know what will kick his career to the next level, and it's to kill off all the gay characters for the algorithm. And then there's like horrors and stuff from his background and all that. I don't know. I've heard really fun things, really good things about this one, so I want to read that one. Then I was heavily influenced by Reagan from Peruse Project. I've been watching her vlogs while I've been working on this big-ass database project for work, and she read this one, and I thought it would just be a fun one to throw in there. This is the start of a new series by Karen Marie Moning, who I've never read from, but is apparently a very prolific urban fantasy author. And this one is the start of a series about witches. It's called The House at Watch Hill. I don't really know a ton about it other than the fact that Reagan was enjoying it, and I know that it's not like a perfect book. There's a lot of like tropes and stereotypes, but it's just supposed to be fun, and I thought it would be kind of a fun one to read, and why not start another series when I'm already reading a ton? Why not? And then the final library book I have is this one, which is Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, which is book 3 in the Emily Wilde series by Heather Fawcett. Heather Fawcett has quickly become one of my favorite authors. I have now read a handful of her books, and I have more on my Kindle to get to, but this is the third book in Emily Wilde. I meant to look up if there were going to be more books or if it's just a trilogy. I read the second book from the library within the last few months, and I really enjoyed it, so I would like to just continue on with this one, and this will either finish out this trilogy or I'll just be caught up. Emily Wilde is like a cozy fantasy. She is a scholar focused on fairies, and in the first book she goes to a village that's kind of like Iceland to research and document the fairies that are there. One day her colleague rival guy shows up and he's like, hey, what's up? I'm here with you now. And it's like an enemies to lovers. It's super cute. There's like political intrigue. The second book really kicks off from the first book. I just think it's wonderful and lovely and so cozy, so I thought this would be a perfect one for the fall. And as if that's not enough books, let me get the final stack. So what's really been working for my brain is having one physical fiction book on the go, one physical nonfiction, and then one ebook. The ebook I read at night, so right now that's the third Amari book. The physical book that I'm reading that's fiction is The Chronicles of Weather Why by Anna James, and the nonfiction I'm reading is a book about women ghosts. And I'm just having such a bomb-ass time keeping that kind of set up. So I have a stack here of potential nonfiction to read after I finish the ghost book, which I'm about halfway through. The first one is Spooky Pennsylvania. This is retold by S.E. Schlosser, illustrated by Paul G. Hoffman. This is literally just Pennsylvania in different towns, different cities, and different like urban legends and spooky ghost stories and shit for Pennsylvania. I love these books, these types of books. I have so many of them, and I thought it would be the perfect time in the fall to read Spooky Pennsylvania. I also have really been wanting to pick up Joan of Arc by Helen Castor. I'm trying this thing that I only recently decided I was gonna do, where I'm trying to read more about women in history written by women or queer people or non-binary, because I have a decent amount of history books written by white straight men, which is like, it's whatever, but I think it's more important to give space on my shelves for women, people of color, queer people, to influence history and like teach me, because you get a much different perspective when you read their books. Not that you can't get good information from cisgendered, white male historians. Certainly you can, but you're gonna get a different perspective when you read from everyone else. So I read recently the book about women ghosts I'm reading, written by women. The book I read before that about witch trials throughout history, starting with the Protestant Reformation, written by a woman. It's just, it's wonderful, it's cozy, it's so nice. So I really want to pick up Joan of Arc by Helen Castor. Then I have one by Alice Loxton. I read her most recent book, 18, last Christmas, and I had such a bomb-ass time with it. That one was a collection of stories all throughout history of like historical people when they were 18. And it was so fascinating. I had such a fun time reading it, of learning what it's like to be a teenager all throughout history, and like when the concept of being a teenager kind of came about, which really didn't happen before child labor laws, at least in the United States. So it was super fascinating. So I picked up another book by her, and this one is called Uproar: Satire, Scandal, and Printmakers in Georgian London. I don't tend to read a ton of things set in Georgian London. I tend to be stereotypical and read like Middle Ages, Victorian, nothing else. A little bit of French Revolution, not really much else. But I thought that this one would be a fun one to read. I really like Alice Loxton's writing, so I do want to see if she has any other books besides this one and put them on my Christmas list. Then another author that I really, really enjoy reading from is Kate Summerscale. She writes true crime, but historical true crime. So the one that I read from her was The Suspicions of Mr. Witcher, which I read a couple years ago and I really enjoyed. And this one, I don't think is technically a true crime. I think this is more paranormal, but I don't know because I haven't read it yet. But this one is The Haunting of Alma Fielding, a true ghost story. And this one takes place in London in 1938, where Alma Fielding started to experience some stuff and they thought it was a poltergeist. And then this deals with like Alma's story and the story of the investigators that were like looking into the paranormal stuff. Very excited to get to this one. I know that Kate Summerscale has some other books out. I believe one came out very recently that was nominated. It was on the Women's Prize for Nonfiction long list, I think. I think it was called like Peep Show or something like that. I'll have to see what her other books are about to determine if I want to read them or not. If they're set even slightly close to now and have to do with true crime, I don't think I'm going to go for it, but we'll see. I'm really excited to read more ghost shit, so that's why I want to read this one. When we go, every fall, my husband and I go to New England. It's just like a yearly vacation thing that we do, mostly because I love it and I want to move up there, and he does too, but mostly for me. But we always go to this local bookstore that's up there that's super cute, and I get a stack of spooky themed books from a spooky bookstore set in spooky New England. You have to for the vibes. I've been working my way through those books. So the witch book that I read very recently was from that bookstore, and so is this one. This one is The Devil's Right Hand, The Tragic Story of the Colt Family Curse by M. William Phelps. This one tells the legacy of death and destruction in the Colt family, and has to do with a murder that inspired Edgar Allan Poe's story, The Oblong Box. It's set in the 1800s. I don't know why I picked it up, because I thought maybe it would be spooky. Don't really want to read about guns, TBH. I don't know why I got this one, but I'm gonna give it a go, and we'll see if I enjoy it. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And then the final book that I have that's also been on my list is this one, which is The Bright Ages by Matthew Gabriel and David M. Perry, A New History of Medieval Europe. I read their most recent book that came out, Oathbreaker? Is that what it's called? I can't read what it says from here. But I also read that one, the same vacation where I read 18 by Alice Loxton. And it was really good. That one was about the Frank dynasty. And I just really enjoyed it. That one was like set in Charlemagne times, super duper old, 800s. Is that what that was? Am I making that up? Anyway, I really want to read more from them, so that's why I decided to pick up this one. This one is not terribly long. I think that I will enjoy it, but I love reading about like Middle Ages, medieval history, Dark Ages, all of the years that people typically lump into that time period. I really enjoy reading about, so I thought that I would read this one. I think that's enough books for this video. I am trying to continue to do weekly vlogs where you can see every week what I'm reading and working my way through, including books that I'm DNFing, which has been a couple books this week so far, but that's okay. Let me know what you guys are planning on reading in September. Do you have any series you're trying to finish? Any new releases you're really excited about? And that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.